Good morning. For the first time in a long time, I saw a gecko on the floor of my veranda, and fascinated, I took a little video. And then, of course, I remembered that there's a story about a gecko in Italo Calvino's book, and it's called The Gecko's Belly. On the terrace, the gecko has returned, as he does every summer. An exceptional observation point allows Mr. Palomar to see him not from above, as we've always been accustomed to seeing geckos, tree frogs and lizards, but from below. In the living room of the Palomar home, there is a little showcase window and display case that opens onto the terrace. On the shelves of this case, a collection of Art Nouveau vases is aligned. In the evening, a 75-watt bulb illuminates the objects. A plumbago plant trails its pale blue flowers from the wall against the outside glass. Every evening, as soon as the light is turned on, the gecko, who lives under the leaves on that wall, moves onto the glass, to the spot where the bulb shines, and remains motionless like a lizard in the sun. Gnats fly around, also attracted by the light. The reptile, when a gnat comes within range, swallows it. Mr. Palomar and Mrs. Palomar every evening end up shifting their chairs from the television set to place them near the glass. From the interior of the room, they contemplate the whitish form of the reptile against the dark background. The choice between television and gecko is not always made without some hesitation. Each of the two spectacles has some information to offer that the other doesn't provide. The television ranges over continents, gathering luminous impulses that describe the visible face of things. The gecko, on the other hand, represents immobile concentration and the hidden side, the obverse of what is displayed to the eye. The most extraordinary things are the claws, actual hands with soft fingers, all pad, which pressed against the glass adhere to it with their minuscule suckers. The 5 fingers stretch out like the petals of little flowers in a childish drawing. And when one claw moves, the fingers close like a flower, only to spread out against and flatten against the glass, making tiny streaks like fingerprints. At once delicate and strong, these hands seem to contain a potential intelligence, so that if they could only be freed from their task of remaining stuck there to the vertical surface, they could acquire the talents of human hands, which are said to have become skilled after no longer had to cling to boughs or press on the ground. Bent, the legs seem not so much all knee as all elbow, elastic in order to raise the body. The tail adheres to the glass only along a central strip, from which the ring begins to circle it from one side to the other and make of it a sturdy and well-protected implement. Most of the time it is listless, idle, and seems to have no talent or ambition beyond subsidiary support, nothing like the calligraphic agility of lizards' tails. But when called upon, it proves well articulated, ready to react, even expressive. Of the head, the vibrant, capacious gullet is visible, and the protruding lidless eyes at either side. The throat is a limp sac surface, extending from the tip of the chin, hard and all scales like that of an alligator, to the white belly that, where it is pressed against the glass, also reveals a grainy, perhaps adhesive, speckling. When a gnat passes close to the gecko's throat, the tongue flicks and engulfs, rapid and supple and prehensile, without shape, capable of assuming whatever shape. In any case, Mr. Palomar is never sure if he has seen it or not seen it. What he surely does see now is the gnats inside the reptile's gullet. The belly pressed against the illuminated glass is transparent, as if under X-rays. You can follow the shadow of the prey in its course through the viscera that absorb it. If all material were transparent, the ground that supports us, the envelope that sheathes our body, everything would be seen not as a fluttering of impalpable wings, but as an inferno of grinding and ingesting. Perhaps at this moment a god of the netherworld, situated at the centre of the earth, with his eye that can pierce granite, is watching us from below, following the cycle of living and dying, the lacerated victims dissolving in the bellies of their devourers until they, in their turn, are swallowed by another belly. The gecko remains motionless for hours. With the snap of his tongue, he gulps down a mosquito or a gnat every now and then. Other insects, on the contrary, identical to the first, light unawares a few millimeters from his mouth, and he seems not to perceive them. Is it the vertical pupil of his eyes, separated at the sides of his head, that doesn't notice? Or does he have criteria of choice and rejection that we do not know? Or are his actions prompted by chance or by whim? The segmentation of legs and tails into rings, the speckling of tiny granulous plates on his head and belly, give the gecko the appearance of a mechanical device, a highly elaborate machine, its every microscopic detail carefully studied, so that you begin to wonder if all that perfection is not squandered in view of the limited operations it performs. Or is this perhaps the secret? Content to be, does he reduce his doing to the minimum? Can this be his lesson, the opposite of the morality that in his youth Mr. Palomar wanted to make his? To strive always to do something a bit beyond one's means. Now a bewildered nocturnal butterfly comes within range. Will he overlook it? No, he catches this too. His tongue is transformed into a butterfly net and he pulls it into his mouth. Will it all fit? Will he spit it out? Will he explode? No, the butterfly is there in his throat. It flutters in a sorry state, but still itself, not touched by the insult of chewing teeth. Now it passes the narrow limits of the neck. It is a shadow that begins its slow and troubled journey down along a swollen esophagus. The gecko, emerging from its impassiveness, gasps, shakes its convulsed throat, staggers on legs and tail, twists its belly, subjected to a severe test. Will this be enough for him for tonight? Will he go away? Was this the peak of every desire he yearned to satisfy? Was this the nearly impossible test in which he wanted to prove himself? No, he stays. Perhaps he's fallen asleep. What is sleep like for someone who has eyes without eyelids? Mr. Palomar is unable to move from there either. He sits and stares at the gecko. There is no trace on which he can count. Even if he turned the television back on, he would only be extending the contemplation of massacres. The butterfly, fragile Eurydice, sinks slowly into a Hades. A gnat flies, is about to light on the glass, and the gecko's tongue whips out. I wave the gnat away. I don't flick out my tongue and swallow it. Much to absorb and contemplate. Thank you for listening.